You too, Bozic. Going the Goat House is back with some more free agency signing grades. Not too many to go over in this video, but wanted to jump on here, give you my takes before tomorrow's action begins. 5 or so free agents in this video. The big one, Calvin Ridley, Jonah Williams, Sheldon Rankins, Joe Flacco, Bobby Wagner, a couple others. What we're going to go over. Playlist full of these videos on the channel. Instant news, predictions, takes on our Twitter. Very important to follow that. Links pinned in the comments. Colts signing Joe Flacco to start. Feel a little bad for the Indy sports fans, not because of this, but what DeMar DeRozan just did to the Pacers. Just watch that. But good news is you get a pretty good quality backup quarterback here where it was very important for the Colts to do so behind Anthony Richardson. I think perfect world, like A grade or A plus grade world, maybe you get someone better. I know was that an option, but better, but more so someone that fits like an Anthony Richardson style of play. But I do like this a lot. Joe Flacco won some games, helped the Browns out a lot last year. But I think the best part about this is the mentor that he could be for Anthony Richardson. Richardson going to be able to pick his brain. He's be able to teach him a lot, obviously. But yeah, it's one of those teams where it was one of the more important backup roles here because Anthony Richardson played only a few games last year and got beat up multiple times, and he had surgery on his throwing shoulder. Sounds like he's had a schedule, going to be good to go, hoping for the best there, staying optimistic, but it was very important to get, somebody behind him. So overall, I like this one for the Colts. I'll give that a B+. Next, Jonah Williams goes to the Cardinals. Just moments before that, they released DJ Humphries, who they thought very highly of at one point, big contract a couple years ago. Different staff, I guess, but and he's also injured. When was he going to be ready? Is he going to be the same? So they move on from him. They signed Jonah Williams. Give it a C+. I mean, the positive here is that I guess they get younger they found a right tackle. They get younger, guy with upside here, a healthy guy that's ready to go right away. And the best part is actually they're able to put Paris Johnson, the left tackle, where I think he belongs. But $15 million per year, 2 year, $30 million was definitely more than I was expecting for Jonah Williams. I mean, that's up there in terms of like quality offensive lineman. That's definitely up there. So he does have upside, and maybe just needs to change a scenery because things weren't really working out with the Bengals offensive line in general there. So maybe he can definitely get better. Definitely has upside. It's just, $15 million per year. I thought he'd get a lot cheaper, especially here on day 3 of free agency. Usually those guys get even cheaper than you think. A guy that played left most of his career, counting college as well, and then going to play right again, which he wasn't happy about last year, but apparently, signing here to play right, I guess he's fine with it. Just a little bit more than I thought. And it's a guy that's struggled for the most part in his young career, but does have that upside. But I got a C+ on that one. Bobby Wagner for the Commanders. The Commanders having a pretty good free agency, signing some key guys to help them out. Bobby Wagner at one point did play under Dan Quinn. He gets to do it again. And, pretty solid deal. I know he's probably declining a little bit, but he's still been playing pretty damn well. The linebackers that, him and Frankie LaVue, that's a hell of a duo. The linebackers that the Commanders just haven't had. Hell, the linebackers that Dan Quinn hasn't had in Dallas. And that's kind of what's maybe been holding them back from being even better. I mean, Commanders obviously don't have Micah Parsons or Trevon Diggs, but these linebackers look legit. So a lot of good additions for the Commanders. I like what they've done here. 1 year, $8.5 million. Overall, I think that's very, very solid. So I gave it an A-. My maximum I started doing this year and going forward for a 1 year deal was an A. So A is kind of your new A+. I don't want to give A+ to non-multi-year deals when mainly that's what free agency is about. So I felt like an A- on a 1 year deal made sense here for Wagner and the Commanders. Again, overall, that first couple signings were, I don't want to say questionable. They definitely helped the team, but the prices were a little surprising. But after that, they're really adding some key pieces at some good value here. So I really like what they're doing. And then the big one, Calvin Ridley to the Tennessee Titans, 4 years, $92 million, $23 million per year. feels like most of I'm constantly on Twitter or X with you guys, and most of the Twitter world ripping the Titans a little bit. Maybe because it's a lot of money, but mainly because he's 29 going on 30 and paying him a lot of money. But I don't really mind this one. That is the big thing. Maybe what's keeping it from being an A. Not that an A was like strongly considered or anything, but 29 going on 30 years old, and you give him a 4-year deal. That's very, very, very valuable. That's the big thing where it makes it very risky. But other than that, I mean, I expected him. I know people were talking about, I saw some people talking about like 17, 18, 19 million per year, but I fully expect this. I said it before too. I fully expected him to get around this range. Receiver value going up, the salary cap increase, what the guys that got, look at what recent guys got. Michael Pittman got off the tag. You could definitely argue Pittman's better. You can make the case for either one. But he gets that off the tag before free agency, so you think really takes that next step. A lot of teams desperate for a receiver. All the receivers pretty much taken away, from free agency, before free agency. All signs pointed towards his value being very high. Then you factor in he's a very good receiver. He gets separation, fits today's game, and I think what people forget is that he was out of football for not just an entire year, but more than half of the year before as well. And he came into the Jags last year and went over for over 1,000 yards, was pretty productive. Had some drops, 6 drops on the year. There was other Jags players that were a little more costly. Trevor Lawrence missing guys by this much. It was crazy how often that happened, and it's just unfortunate, really, is what it was. And Ridley actually played big-time games against the Titans last year. So I think, given the circumstances, everything I just explained, the situation for the NFL, for receivers, for Ridley, I think he's worth around this range. I think, the issues paying him for, and we want to see the structure of the contract is very important for this one as well, because, 4 years, a little lengthy for a guy 29 going on 30. So, but overall, again, for the reasons I just explained, the Titans badly needed a receiver. You look at where they're at in the draft, 7, could get a receiver, but is one of those 3 elite guys going to drop? But they badly need offensive line, and there was kind of a shortage on offensive linemen in free agency, other than the centers, it seemed, and they happened to get a center. So now they can focus on that left or right tackle. I think Joe Alt, J.C. Latham, really what we're looking at. Fuaga could be. I like Fatanu a lot. I'm not a big Fashanu guy. A lot of those names are very similar that I just said, but not a huge Fashanu guy. It's besides the point. But they can focus on offensive line now. So I actually don't mind this. Perfect world, 3-year deal, $21.5 million per year. I probably, if 3-year deal, 21.5 or under, I probably would have gave it A- or higher, because I like Ridley. And then given all the circumstances, I kind of just listed it all off for you guys. So we're actually not too far off here. Not too far off that. So Titans are getting better. I mean, I like Pollard edition. That's going to be fun. I don't know if they really get better there because they go from Derrick Henry to Tony Pollard, but they stay pretty solid there, obviously. But you're adding offensive linemen. I think they would have done a little bit more there, but add offensive linemen. You add Awuzie, you add Ridley. There's a couple other options in there as well, and they're in the market. They're linked to some other guys. So I think the Titans are doing a fairly solid job. They're spending some money and they're looking to spend more, but they're a team that doesn't want to go rebuild. They want to get back to winning, and I think they, depending on Levis, I think they kind of can get back on track here. So this is a pretty big signing. Obviously today, probably the biggest one today. And then we got one that most recently happened, Sheldon Rankins. It's really quiet right now. We're going to go over some more minor signings after this, but Rankins goes to the Bengals, 2-year, $26 million, $13 million per year. The Texans, traded away Malik Collins earlier today, and here's their other D tackle, and they had a couple other pieces. They added some pieces, but so this is an interesting one. The Bengals needed interior defensive line help because they struggle a little bit. BJ Hill wasn't the same as what he was a couple years ago, and then DJ Reader was hurt 2 different times, and he's still very good if he's on the field. And but he was hurt. We'll talk about him in a second again too, but hurt a couple different times. So then they were just in trouble. They could not stop the run. There was no pressure from the interior. So they needed help. And even if they get DJ Reader back, and they still could, because Reader's a nose tackle, and of course he's not just going to line up at the zero technique or even just the one technique. So a little bit more than just a true nose tackle. Rankins is, a D tackle. He can line up over the guard. Obviously, I wouldn't put it past him to line up more 3 technique if you need him to. So you could get Reader back, but he is visiting with the Lions. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe it's a little less likely, but this signing does not mean for sure no DJ Reader. But maybe it's less likely because they spent some money on somebody in somewhat of a similar position, and he's visiting with the Lions. But so they'll need somebody else probably as well. But this does help them. It's something they didn't really have last year. This is more of a BJ Hill upgrade in my eyes. So pretty solid player, played pretty well with the Texans last year. 13 million's, pretty solid value, right around what he should get. I would not have been surprised with anything from 10 to 14 million, 14 and a half, anywhere in that range. The thing is, the Texans played well last year. They stopped the run pretty well, except for the Colts game at the end of the year. And a big piece was, Rankins and guys like that in there, but they still the Texans felt like, and it was kind of obvious going into the offseason, like they're going to upgrade at D tackle. So Texans are almost saying like, these guys aren't good enough for us. And the Bengals are saying that they're good enough. This guy's good enough for us. That's where it looks a little, interesting, and why I'm not going to get, just go super crazy over it, but it definitely helps the Bengals, and he is a solid player. He did have some durability concerns earlier in his career. That's kind of went away recently, so hopefully that continues, like to stay away. But I give it a B+. It's something that the Bengals really needed here. I didn't really think they were going to do something like this. Not that it's anything crazy, but again, kudos to them. And then I have a spreadsheet link in the comments with everything here for the most part. Still waiting on some details, but like 99% of the deals will be in here. Other ones to touch on. Armand Watts, his last year in Minnesota, he was pretty productive. He's been sneaky productive to the last couple of years as well. 1 year, $3 million. Rotation guy. I kind of like that. B+, kind of random. Signing. But speaking of random signing, the Titans get Mason Rudolph, who just helped the Steelers get to the playoffs. And so I guess getting a backup behind Levis was pretty important, and they get him for a year, and a pretty random number as well on top of being a random signing, $3.62 million. Again, not giving out A+ for 1 year deals anymore. So I think that's a pretty damn good deal. Miles Kilbrew for the Steelers, one of the better special teamers in the game. 2 year deal. 6.5 total. I give that an A-. Jonathan Bullard back to the Vikings. They were kind of looking around to see if they can upgrade. They're still probably looking for another defensive lineman. Bullard actually played better than expected last year. Stopped the run better than expected. Vikings run defense was actually decent, so they still have him and Phillips, and they're getting, they add Cashman, maybe a better run defender than what they've had in linebackers before. So, but I'll go B+. I think that's pretty cheap. Nick Folk back to the Titans. He kicked very well for them last year. Gave that an A-, and that's it. That's it for this video. It's probably one of the smaller videos here. But links down below for this. We have a playlist full of these free agency signing grade videos. Twitter, I have best available. I'm always tweeting out. If you click on our highlights, go to our profile and click on the tab that says highlights. Those important ones I kind of put there. But a lot of takes, predictions, instant news. So it's very important to follow our Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. If you don't have one, I would recommend making one. Give us a follow. Much appreciated. Sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV, code GOAT. Check it out. But, that's going to wrap this one up. It's really quiet right now, hopefully, in the NFL world. Hopefully more action tomorrow. A lot of these guys are going to be taking visits probably because they have some injury concern. But still expecting a L'Jarius Sneed trade, but who knows what happens there. But I'm excited. So that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.